All right, so moving on to number 9. Number 9 and 10 actually are going to be connected, so we're going to talk about them at the same time here. And they're both working with this equation that we have written up above. So this equation, what we want to be able to do before we start solving this problem is figure out what do these variables represent. So starting with A, you'll see in this equation they're going to tell you A is the speed of a sound wave. So it's in feet per second. So this is speed. And again, it's written in feet per second. And then you have T, that's going to be your temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So that's your temp in degrees Fahrenheit. So those are your variables. We want to make sure we understand what those represent as we work through these problems. So number 9 is one of these problems I really don't have to look at to understand what they're asking me to do. I just got to see the answers. And it's a literal equation, and I can tell it's a literal equation, which means an equation that you just solve for another variable by looking at the answer choices. You'll notice they're all solved for t. So that just means I'm going to take this equation, I'm going to solve it for t. So if I take this and I copy it down, so I have A equals 1052 plus 1.08t. And again, I'm going to go ahead and solve this for t. You start by subtracting 1052 on both sides. So those cancel out. And then you're left with A minus 1052 equals 1.08 times t. And again, we're solving for t. So I'm just going to, at this point, divide both sides by 1.08. as my marker starts to die. So these cancel, and you are left with this expression. And if you look, your answer choice A is going to match that expression. So number 9 is going to be A. So next up, we have number 10. So number 10 is asking us to say which of the following air temperatures. So I'm looking at temperature, which is T, will the speed of sound, which they're giving me the speed of sound, would be closest to 1,000 feet per second. So they're actually giving me the speed of sound. They're giving me A. What they're asking for is T. So all I'm doing is plugging in for A. So I'm going to plug in 1,000. And that's going to equal 1,052 plus 1.08 t. So we're just solving this for t and see which answer it's closest to. Now that's the key word on this. They say closest to, you're not going to get the actual answer. You're going to get an approximation of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and solve for t and just know I'm not going to get the actual answer, but that's okay. So I'm subtracting 1,052 from both sides. And we're going to need the calculator for this one because our answer is going to be a decimal. So you're going to get your calculator and just go ahead and get this set up. The first part is really not needing a calculator because you're just subtracting these two numbers. Obviously, this is going to be negative 52 because it's basically 1,000s canceled. But that's going to equal 1.08 t. Now we need that calculator. So we're going to divide by 1.08 on both sides. So you're going to plug in this expression on your calculator, and that's going to give you t is approximately negative 48.15. In this case, that's going to represent your temperature, so degrees Fahrenheit. So we want to find the answer choice that's closest to this number, and that is going to be negative 48. So that's going to be B, because that is what this thing approximately equals, negative 48 degrees. So that's going to be number 10. So as we move on, we have number 11. Number 11 is giving you this expression right here, and it's saying which of the following numbers is not a solution. And the key, again, is not. That one little word makes a huge difference because I can kind of say, like, if you go through this and you see 3 answers at work, it might confuse you unless you paid attention to the question itself. So first off, obviously, I'm just going to solve this. But again, we're looking at it from a different perspective and want to see which answer does not work. But let's solve it first, and then we'll talk about that. So to solve, I'm just going to go ahead and get x on one side of this inequality. So it means I'm subtracting 3x from both sides. so that's going to cancel out on that side. So you're left with negative 5 is greater than or equal to x minus 3. So next up, again, I'm trying to solve this for x. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I have negative 2 is greater than or equal to x. Now, it might be a little easier for you to flip this inequality around so you can see what's going on. You don't have to, but I'm just going to do that to kind of help out you seeing the answer on this. So notice the x, the arrow is pointing towards it. So that's going to have to stay the same when I put the x on the left-hand side. So I'm going to make sure the arrow points towards the x. So that's going to be less than or equal to negative 2. So those are my answer choices have to fall in that range. So as I look at my answer choices, the one answer that is not less than or equal to negative 2 is going to be A, which is negative 1. Again, that's the one that's not a solution. All those other answers are solutions, and we're looking for one that is not. So that's going to be number 11. So that's 11. Moving on to number 12. All right, number 12 is giving us this chart, and what it's asking us to do, and this is a histogram here, says which of the following is closest to the average number of seeds per apple. So when they're giving you the statement, when they say something like, seeds per apple, the word per is going to be super important here because it's telling us to divide. So we're going to go seeds, the word per means divide, and then we're going to say apples. So it is plural here. So what we need to do is figure out how many seeds are there, how many apples are there, and divide them. That's really all they're asking us to do in this problem. So what we have to understand is what we're dealing with here, how to calculate it properly. Here on the bottom we have a number of seeds. So we have seeds here, and then this is going to be your apples on our y-axis. So for instance, if I want to figure out how many apples I have, I just take these numbers and I add them up. I have 2 apples, plus here I have 4 apples. Next I have 1 apple. Here I have 2 apples, and looks like over here I have 3 apples. Now what they're doing though with the number of seeds is they're telling you how many seeds per apple you have. This is giving us a frequency. So to figure out how many seeds we have in total, we're going to take 2 apples times 3 seeds per apple. So we're going to get 2 times 3. So we're going to get 6 seeds. So that's going to give us 6 seeds for this first bar. Over here I have 4 apples that give me 5 seeds each. So 4 apples, each one has 5 seeds. So 4 times 5, that's going to give me 20 seeds. Next I have 1 apple with 6 seeds, so that's going to give me 6 seeds. Here I have, looks like 2 apples that give me 14 seeds, so 2 times 14, 2 apples give me 7 seeds. So forgive me, that looks really bad. So anyway, what we have here is we have 2 times 7. That's going to give me 14 seeds. And then lastly, you look over here, it looks like we have, looks like 3. Yes, it's 3. So I have 3 seeds with 9 apples. So 3 times 9 is going to give me 27 seeds. So in my numerator, I'm just going to go 6 plus 20 plus 6 plus 14 plus 27. So I have seeds on top, apples on bottom. Seeds are going to give me 73. Apples are going to add up to give me 12. And this is going to give me, and you have to use your calculator to get this, but it's going to be about 6.08. Now the question says, which of the following is the closest? So I'm looking at the answer choice that's closest to 6, and that is that is 6. Closest to 6.08, and that's C, which is 6. So number 12 is going to be C. And that leads us on to our last one for this video, which is going to be number 13. Now number 13 is a two-way frequency chart. So when you see a two-way frequency chart, be aware that this is nothing more than a probability question. And probability is nothing more than desired outcomes divided by total outcomes. So in this scenario, we want to just figure out what's our total. We always start with the total, and then once we know that number, then we can get our desired. So in this case, they're giving us this big paragraph. Usually if you have a big chart and you had a big paragraph that goes along with it, the paragraph is just describing that chart. So I like to just jump to the question to see if I have enough information to answer it right now, which in this case I will. It says, which of the following categories accounts for approximately 19% of all survey respondents? So first off, our total possible outcomes is all survey respondents, so it's going to be our 310. I want to know how many desired outcomes do I need to have to give me a probability that is approximately 19%. So this is the equation that I get right here. I'm just solving this for x and see what I get, and that's going to be my answer. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 310. So those are going to cancel out. Over here I multiply by 310. And when you do that, you're going to get an approximate value for x. So if I do this, I'm going to get 58.9. So if you get 58.9, that's about 59. So we're going to look over here where the 59 is. It's right here. So we're looking at males that like geometry or prefer geometry. So that's, or taking in this case. So they're taking it because I didn't read the paragraphs. I don't know exactly what they said, but that's fine. So that's going to be C. That's going to give me close to that answer, and that's going to be your answer to number 13.